Shabbat Shalom, my friends. Well, I'm going to have to ask you to indulge me just a bit. I received this book hot off of the CCR press just this week. Reforming Judaism, Moments of Disruption in Jewish Thought. Oh, my name. Rabbi Stanley Davids and Dr. Leah Hockman. That book represents about 2.5 years of labor in shaping a volume dedicated to the refutation of the notion that the Judaism of our day, Judaism today, is a straight-line expression of unchanging Jewish thought. It's not true. The book impressively demonstrates how dozens of times core Jewish thought has shifted and dramatically changed, disrupted, that's the key word in the book, disrupted, if you will, by ideas and events that were both unexpected and incapable of being ignored. Our Judaism today could not have been foreseen by the authors of the Torah, nor by the sages of the Talmud, nor by medieval Jewish philosophers. And the process of evolution through disruption continues to our very day. Not only do I believe that many of you might really enjoy this book, but if you would like to set up a Zoom seminar for me with members of your community, please know I am more than interested. The publisher, CCAR Press. Did I show you this already? I think I did. Reforming Judaism, Moments of Disruption in Jewish Thought. My name there. Okay. Enough self-serving. Is there enough? Well, our Sedra is SHOFTIM, Deuteronomy 16:18 and following. Have I bored you week after week by repeating that I really love, enjoy the book of Deuteronomy? That I admire the core values it espouses, and that in so many important ways, it's simply so much more than just volume 5 of a set of 5 books. Deuteronomy is revolutionary. Its values raise questions that generation after generation of Jews have actually grappled with. Deuteronomy is simply not the final word, but in so many important ways, it is the crown jewel of the Torah. The conceit here in Deuteronomy, you know it, is that Moses delivering his final teachings to the people as they prepare to enter the promised land. And as Moses is being forced to acknowledge that he will not live past the next couple of days. Under the crushing pressure of that reality, Moses chooses his subject matter very carefully. He has no time to waste. Establish a judicial system, establish a secular monarchy, reject the abhorrent religious practices of those who will soon be your neighbors. Cast aside anyone whose teachings contradict Torah. Be wary of false prophets. Set up the possibility for conscientious objectors to refuse to serve in the military. Remember to protect the environment, the natural world, even when you are fighting a war because you are not doing battle against trees. The biblical material, Deuteronomy, all of it, is not a static snapshot of how things were, but rather it is a kaleidoscopic, panoramic, dynamic portrait of our people, our history, our growing awareness of all that binds us together, and our reaching toward God and discovering God reaching toward us. Thus, Deuteronomy refutes its own name. It is so much more than a mere repetition of the law, a repetition of all that had gone before. Under the guise of continuity, Deuteronomy radically disrupts the structure of our people's lives. The presence of such richness, let's choose to examine just the opening lines of the Sedra. You shall appoint judges and officials from your tribes, and they shall govern your people with due justice. Mishpat tzedek, due justice, with judgments that embody righteousness. And then come these words, long immortalized in Western jurisprudence, here in our Sedra, right at the beginning. Tzedek, tzedek, tirdof. Justice, justice shall you pursue. A civilization is being constructed here. Institution upon institution, principle upon principle, value upon value. Though we know that there is little reliability in the various chronologies within the Torah, let's just see how this plays out throughout the Torah. Justice. Let's start with Noah and the flood. After the massive destruction imposed by God because of the sinfulness of our people, we suddenly find in Genesis early the 7 laws of Noah, the Noahide laws. Before the mitzvot of Shabbat and Kashrut and Tzitzit and even Torah study were mandated, building blocks of Jewish civilization were set up for our post-Diluvian ancestors. Prohibitions against worshiping idols, cursing God, murder, adultery, sexual immorality, theft, eating flesh torn from a living animal, as well as the obligation to set up courts of justice right from the beginning. The Torah's worldwide view is clear. There are core behaviors in which everyone is expected to share in, if community is to be established. Now, whether or not we would have set up these particular 7 laws of Noah, prohibitions, whatever, if we were to do it again in our own day, is not nearly as important as the proposition that without such agreed upon behaviors, community simply cannot stand. Please note, there must be laws. Please note, and therefore there must be judges and courts. But those laws must be flexible. Torah knows that. So what if one makes a vow and discovers that fulfilling such a vow would lead to a disaster for oneself and perhaps for many others as well? Torah provides what I have ingeniously called sanctified leniency. The kind of leniency, we know it from Kol Nidre, the easing of vows, Kol Nidre, that Kol Nidre tries to express in its own way. Point: we need laws, but we must not be trapped in our errors. Like that leader of our people in the book of Judges, what a story, who ends up sacrificing his own daughter to pay off what he believes to be his debt to God. Okay. And those laws must be understandable. Our rule book, Torah, whatever, forbids murder, but it approves of capital punishment. So when is killing murder, and when is killing an act of justice or even of justifiable self-defense? And by the way, what do the laws of Torah have to say about fighting a war on the seventh day, on Shabbat. Is the choice of martyrdom always the default value in Jewish life? And by the way, I say no. And laws must have boundaries. Some laws apply only to Jews. Some laws apply to all human beings. So who is part of our community and who is not? A prophet like Amos declares God's equal, lo halochiv nekushem li atem b'nei Israel. You are like the Ethiopians to me, you are like everybody else to me. A prophet like Amos declares God's equal love for every group or nation. But does the obligation to love our neighbors as ourselves apply only to real neighbors and not to those in a neighboring town or even thousands of miles away? And we're ordered to treat Gerim, translation, strangers, in a very caring fashion. It's in the Haggadah. After all, we were once Gerim, strangers, in the land of Egypt. We have felt the burden of being strangers. But some of the Torah laws seem to indicate a preference for calling someone a ger who has made a commitment to live in our community and to adopt our values and behaviors in our culture. What is it? We need courts. A secure civilization needs judges, honest judges, trained and experienced judges, judges free of bias, judges unencumbered by what some of the people, or even what many of the people, might decide to call just. Laws must not be understood to favor one economic class or one ethnic group over another. Remember how the chapter in Deuteronomy began? Set up judges. That's what this is all about. A secure civilization protects its judges, honors its judges, pays heed to its judges. And in a secure civilization, its judges must always deserve such protection, such honor, and such respect. I love the book of Deuteronomy. Our Sedra this week is magnificent in its richness and its intuitive understanding of what it takes to build a civilization. Deuteronomy knows that, and so should we. What a great Sedra. Shabbat Shalom. See you next week.